Welcome to Acquire, Optimize, Realize. This episode is on cybersecurity in private equity. I'm here with Steve Ursillo and Dan Sembler from Bekaert's risk advisory practice. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks, Cameron. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Cameron.
Steve, cybersecurity is obviously an ever-evolving topic, regardless of which industry we're discussing. Would you mind just giving us a few insights into the current threat landscape?
Sure. I think it's always important to consider that adversaries are looking for new and continuously improving ways to monetize data. One of the more predominant ways they do this is around ransomware attacks. So these attackers will compromise a system through phishing campaigns or credential attacks or some other type of compromise. And then once they do, they'll infect a system with ransomware or malware that will encrypt data, and they'll try to hold that for ransom. And in many cases, they'll be demanding payment, but if the company feels that their system resiliency and continuity measures are good enough that they can recover, the second option for the attacker would be to basically threaten them to put the information that they've exfiltrated or stolen up on the public domain, and then they have to pay for it in order to make sure that that doesn't happen. And then kind of a fallback would be that they institute some type of a denial of service campaign to shut the systems down. Another predominant threat within the threat landscape is related to business email compromise, which is usually something that comes out of, once again, stolen credentials. These attacks allow bad actors to gain access to a system to impersonate somebody via their email, and they'll target or facilitate fraudulent transactions. It often leads to a corporate account takeover or the redirecting of incoming payments to illicit accounts that are controlled by the bad actor. Another area that we see problems are around supply chain attacks, where third parties, whether it's a customer or a vendor, gets compromised and they have direct access to your network. And then what happens is the adversaries get into that system and then they move laterally into the other organization or your organization, and they steal data and will initiate a number of different types of campaigns, once again, to monetize that data.
Thanks, Steve. Dan, why is private equity focused on cybersecurity? And more specifically, what are the threats that could be potential risks surrounding M&A transactions?
Sure. Yeah, top of mind for any private equity firm is going to be the financial cost that's associated with incurring any type of data or security incident or breach. We want to make sure that they're always keeping in mind non-financial or reputational risk as well. The target companies that the PE firms are going to be considering making an investment in also have ever-increasing costs related to data protection and governance compliance programs that are going to be protecting the intellectual property that they have within their networks and within their boundaries. Anytime an organization has a competitive advantage related to the intellectual property they have, the data they house, anything in that realm, is going to be of utmost importance that the private equity firms have an understanding of where that data is and the protections that really go around to keeping that data safe. Disruptions or breaches or security incidents anywhere throughout that life cycle can have a material impact on a potential deal and can ultimately cause them to fail.
Well, and to your point, more often than not, sponsors are performing cyber diligence on target acquisitions. Given all the potential risks that could kill a deal, how do you prioritize and respond to those?
Yeah, it's going to be really important for PE firms to establish their own security baseline, how they're going to be evaluating target companies that they want to consider making an investment in. They want to establish that baseline. They want to use that baseline to evaluate the companies and then evaluate the results of those evaluations to prioritize risks and roadmaps for how they can respond to those risks, both in a pre and post-close environment. Last thing I want to make sure everybody's always thinking about is it's going to be really important for the PE firms to be updating their benchmarks as time progresses, as threat landscapes change, if there are new threat actors introduced, just to make sure those baselines stay relevant and they continue to do an appropriate job evaluating target companies' risk management profiles.
Thanks, Dan. Steve, Dan mentioned a roadmap, right? So what is on that roadmap post-close for private equity funds and their investments?
Yeah, thanks, Cameron. So it is important to have those well-defined roadmaps. And then, when it comes to the work that's done pre-close versus post-close, post-close is just as important as the pre-close. In many cases, there's a need for a deeper level of transparency and evaluation against those benchmarks or any other third-party criteria that might be relevant for their industry in which they operate. And typically, the cost benefit has shifted a bit. So the level of effort and the overall management of the program becomes an ongoing effort to make sure that they're properly mitigating those risks. In many cases, as you design the programs and you look at all the key controls and you look at the management of those controls, you look in to have those best practices following to measure up against the risk profiles that have been established by key leadership. And then also making sure that you're continuously evolving that. And those best practices can be, risk assessments, vulnerability assessments, penetration testing. It could be part of the supply chain management and third-party risk management program, in addition to threat detection and incident response. Cybersecurity is definitely something that's not set and forget. So once you've established those benchmarks and you've evaluated against that, you want to do that deeper dive to make sure that you have the ongoing management and control maturity in order to safeguard your investment.
Thank you, Steve. To our listeners, this series is designed to briefly highlight challenges and opportunities faced by private equity. If you have any questions or need any additional information, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you.